Now we want to have a little chat about what the Germans call Schlagsingen, which is slender, sing slender. And I even made a tape showing you how to do attacks where you do blending. A lot of blending is based on this particular ability to go. So you never do hear the snap. It's not. It's not that. It's. No. That means the tone is slender. It's something very close to what we call the crescendo decrescendo, right? Except you are thinking now, I'm going to blend the falsetto into the tone. I'm not going to let it snap. See? So we'll go. So that's a slender tone. Now, let's talk about slender formation, which is something different. Right? Let's put that one a little bit now. Let's add that one to our category, our encyclopedia. And that is, I'm going to now make sure that my vowel stays slender. Okay, so I'm going to use this one. So I'm not opening, I'm not letting any vowels come through. I'm only using the point of resonance in the third eye up here, and that requires a certain kind of breathing and gets a certain reaction. So you do that for a while, especially if you keep it up here, you will begin to start to feel the pressure inside, the breath pressure on the side pressing on the diaphragm and the back squeezing. Now, here's the secret. If I want to open up the vowel so you can hear it, I open a teeny crack like this. See? When I was in England, all the singers there sang very, very, with their mouth closed like this all the time. See? I said, why does everybody sing with their mouth closed? And my New Zealand friend said, well, you know, mate, if you open the barn door, the cow will get out. So the idea is I'm going, so I'm picking up a lot of throat resonance now. I'd rather not have that. I'd rather have a bright, clear, heady tone that's more suitable for the lyric repertoire. So if I do that, I'm going to open the crack, just a crack. You like you'd open the door, just a crack, and let some light come in there. And that's all. Then close it. So I'm going to do this. Not that. It's strong. Caruso said a couple of things in his book. He said, closed mouth singing can be very good for the singer. That's one thing. And the other thing was, he said, never change the shape of your mouth when you go to a high note. So these singers go, la, 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 all that stuff, that is absolutely anti-bel canto. It is a modern mistake, and it sounds like crazy. It breaks every rule. You're making action in the throat. You're making action in the jaw and the tongue. Everything's making action. And the emission of the breath is no longer even. It goes, boom. La, 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 la. It doesn't matter if you like that sound better, because a rule was a rule. And in the bel canto school, you were not, if you sang open like that, in German today they still use the term Naturstimme, a natural voice, but they mean it in a derogatory way. It means you're too primitive and too raw and too unrefined when you go, oh, and they don't like it. So the idea is to have the choices of what you do, and if I say, and I'm just going to barely open and go, you can understand every word I'm saying. and it's all get right there. Now, what's my reaction? Where is that? And where is this? It's almost like I open that way. So the idea is to practice all the time when you're humming along and driving the car or something. Just go. You'll notice if I'm sustaining that one, activity with my mouth and jaw does not affect the tone. The fact that it does not affect the tone means I don't need to do any of that. I can just go. And all of my vowels are slender, and that they're kept slender that way. Rosa Monsell said that Caruso told her to keep a rectangle in the back of her throat all the time. Well, this would be the front of it, wouldn't it? How you never tell I see you later. How do I pronounce through this little Now, this is also movable, and that's up to the individual artist if you want to do it. But you can move up here too. Got it? What about back here? See what I mean? So these are little things that, as you go along, I think it's a great mistake for singers to believe there's only one way to sing in a professional career as a singer. You find a basis of some kind, but there will be differences in more slender. Some of the music requires that I do a lot of mezzo voce singing. So I've got to be sure not only that I warm up, but I also accept that placement. That's different from remember I did a little bit of smelling a flower. There are many, many ways to sing, and they all depend on one thing: breathing. If you ever got the breath in your lower back way down and really filling it up down there, then you get limited as to what you can do up here. It's not just the amount of air. See, this is a little misunderstanding. You need full capacity if you can get it, but it also is a function of what happens to the larynx and the trachea and the rib cage. Remember, the bigger the drum, the bigger the sound. So it's going to have a big effect on your tone if you can get great big breath. Somebody said to me, somebody wrote me and said, too much breath is the problem. No, it's not. It's your inability to control a big breath. But Caruso said, you need massive respiration. He said, you need the power of massive respiration to be a great singer. And every great singer that I ever talked to when I was a student, I was in the Metropolitan Opera School for 5 years. And I'm telling you, all the great singers were walking through there, and I was picking the brains of everybody, and everybody, without exception, talked about breathing. You got to breathe. You must breathe. It's an exaggerated function. You have to breathe exaggeratedly all the time, and you have to put it down your back. Some of them pull their abdomens in when they did it, and some of them left it still, like Leonard Moore left it still, and some of them pooched them out. The ones that pooched out got nasal, and they started to Barry Morell and some of the really great great voices. But the voice was nasal. If I push my stomach out, my voice goes in my nose. So you never push your stomach out down there when you breathe. Always. You always pull in when you breathe, or you hold it still. And pulling it in, if I do that, I get... One of the great breathing techniques was called a breath jerk. And you jerk it in. That's Louis Lehman. You jerk the abdomen in the instant before you breathe. La, 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 la. It's not even near my nose. It's way up here. But the minute I breathe with my belly going out, if I inhale and let my belly go out, my voice will enter my nose. You got to watch babies. I've had 4. The only time the baby's belly goes out when he breathes and comes back in when he exhales is when he's asleep. Or somehow at repose, I'll say. But when they laugh and they cry, it's absolutely the opposite. This goes in, and then when they start crying, they go, and it's jumping out and forward like mad. You can't jump out and forward if you put your belly out to inhale. Very, very inefficient. So keep breathing way down, like my old teacher would say, like your buttocks are balloons. Breathe like your buttocks are balloons. John Sullivan said upper rectum. Everybody was talking about down low in the back, down low in the back. Breathe as much as you can, down low in the back. And if you do that, your voice will more automatically sit where it goes, because every reaction is an equal reaction. So if I breathe like that, the reaction is that my voice does this and goes up here. If I go straight down like Birgit Nilsson and breathe, my voice goes straight up. See? Joan Sullivan said she breathed upper rectum. Well, that's more in sort of in slightly behind the middle, behind the perineum actually. See? So I go. Leila raised that kind of voice like a house. It was huge, and she breathed on her tailbone. So the air column, instead of being completely straight like a perineum, or even like Sutherland, slightly tilted, this went all the way back to the tailbone like that, and then she got a much steeper angle, and she breathed. She always on the tip of the tailbone, and when I do that, I get in other words, the way you breathe is the action that produces always, according to the third law of motion. That's physics. It's a law. It will always cause a reaction. You've got to imagine that your air column goes like this. I don't know how many of you have seen that video where I talk about air columns and directional stuff, and I don't remember all what's all in, but the point is the air columns move like this. Tetrazzini said you take the first drop of air and the rear lower quadrant of your lungs. So you breathe like that. Now went down in my lungs in the lower rear quadrant all the way down. And I went. Then she said, now fill it up from the bottom to the top. So I go. She said, now take the air column and lean it over against your sternum. So I go. So what do you think? She's the one that Caruso and Toscanini thought had the greatest voice they ever heard. And when Birgit Nilsson made her debut in New York, a lot of the people at the old Metropolitan Club who had heard Tetrazzini, a lot of them said, why is she making a debut? As Isolde, she should be singing Lucia. She sounds just like Tetrazzini. Now Birgit Nilsson had a house, and it was like I cannot tell you, she annihilated everybody, and you couldn't hear anything she'd say. She let one of her big notes out. And they were comparing her not to Flagstad, but to Luisa Tetrazzini. Can you imagine? Then I heard Nilsson sing Lady Macbeth, which had some coloratura in it. She just tossed off like nothing. Great, big, fantastic voice. She did have a major voice, you know. You know, when you sing with her, you stand there and go. I don't think anybody ever heard of it. I heard Franco Corelli get covered by her in the third act of Turandot in that duet. And Corelli had a big voice, and he got covered. Couldn't tell he was singing. So you learn to sort of deal with it. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to cry all the way to the bank, I guess. You know, then nobody could hear me. All right, so we've discussed a few functions and positions, and just try to follow some of the rules. No nasality whatsoever, ever. No change of emission, right? And the belly never goes out when you inhale. It always either holds still or goes in. See? Leonard Warren said this was his skating pond. He kept the whole thing still from here to here, calling it the static diaphragm. So this thing gets completely still, and you go, see? So nothing, you don't let anything change. Change is the word that you cannot allow. We are, as singers, we do this with the bow all the time. We try to never do that. See? And then that's the way Italian is spoken, and French also, very legato language. German is a problem. German you have to learn to do like this. I will do that another day. Okay. All right, thanks guys, and I hope you'll try them out and see what you